Airsoft Innovations includes an excellent user manual with the Tornado, and I wholeheartedly suggest that you read it. You'll be doing yourself a favor by getting yourself a heads up basically on everything you need to know about the grenade. The reason it's so good is because they provide you with instructions on everything you're going to need to know. I know that sounds silly, but not every Airsoft product gets such clear info on these kinds of things. They also give you pictures, so at the very least, if for some reason you don't understand the way they word it, you can probably get a good idea of what to do based on how they illustrate everything. I'm going to be following along with these step-by-step instructions so that everything syncs up with how Airsoft Innovations suggests you use this grenade. Now, for the most part, your Tornado grenade should come more assembled than what you see here. However, assuming yours doesn't, I'm going to show you how to put everything together, and it's pretty straightforward. Starting at the top of the grenade, you're going to need to put the plug on first. It's pretty straightforward. First, you basically want to fold everything in just like that, and then put it on the grenade just as you saw it. Note that there's a small aluminum lip right here, and that is basically where the plug is going to rest when it's installed. So just kind of shoehorn it on. It shouldn't require a lot of force, but you will need to apply just a bit. And then you should see everything looking just like that. Make sure that the plug aligns with the hole on the top of the grenade. Now let's talk about the pin. After all, it is a grenade, it uses a pin, you're going to be using this a lot. Now, there are two places to insert the pin. You see there's two holes right there between the two parts of the plug. The top hole gives you about 1.5 seconds of delay before the grenade detonates. The lower hole gives you about 3 seconds of delay. Bear in mind that you won't be able to insert the pin unless the shuttle is in its reset position, or that is to say it is reset to its ready to go position. Now the top of the shuttle is visible here. It's that small piece of white plastic located right there where my finger is pointing. In order to insert the pin, you have to make sure to push that all the way down. Now Airsoft Innovations actually provides a small dowel-like piece of plastic. It's a tool that they give you to do this very thing. Unfortunately, through the course of my testing, my particular tool got flung across the room into some unknown nook. I cannot find it. So what I've used is a modified cleaning rod. I would suggest that if you lose your tool, that you use something soft and probably plastic as well. The reason being that the plastic material that is used to make the shuttle could chip, scratch, whatever. You don't want to scratch the aluminum either. So try to use something soft if you lose your tool. One thing you're going to want to do is just pop that little plug right out and then use your tool to actually push the shuttle down. You'll know that it's in its ready to go position because it'll be as far down as it can go. Once you've done that, now it's time to insert the pin. So choose what kind of delay you want and insert it. I usually use the 3-second delay. Also note that you have to push the pin all the way through both sides of that tube at the top of the grenade. Another thing to note is that until you actually gas the grenade up, the pin is pretty loose and it'll probably fall out easily, so just keep track of it. I find that it's kind of convenient to sort of just put the little ring over the top of the grenade until you're basically ready to go. Once the pin is set, the next thing to do is to charge up the grenade. Airsoft Innovations gives you two very convenient options. You can use either duster gas, which is what you generally use to clean off keyboards and things of that sort, or propane. Airsoft Innovations sells a $6 adapter that will take care of both types of gas. Propane is probably going to be the one you choose. It's the one I've used because it has the higher operating pressures. The duster gas is something to use if you're playing in a very hot area where the gas will expand and it can become basically dangerous to use propane. Now, the feed port for the gas is located on the bottom of the grenade. You're going to have to unscrew the end cap and look for the brass-colored valve right there in the middle. Ordinarily, what you're going to be doing is inserting the valve stem directly into the back of the grenade and just applying a little bit of pressure. Just like that. Now once you've gassed up the tornado, the next thing to do is to load it. It's pretty straightforward. I use a speed loader, and you basically put the speed loader nozzle to one of the two feed ports and push the BBs in. Each side holds about 100 BBs, and there's an automatic detent so that you don't have to insert any kind of cap or stopper or anything like that. The BBs will stay in place by themselves. I think it's a very simple but very useful feature. Now, once everything is loaded up, you're going to want to put on the end cap. As we talked about earlier, this is basically the safety for the grenade. So once you install this, you're arming the grenade effectively. You're going to want to be very careful because the threads on the end cap are plastic and they're metal on the inside of the grenade. So you need to apply very even force. And I usually like to go counterclockwise with the end cap before actually starting to screw it on. You'll kind of feel this ever so slight clicking when you get it seated correctly. And I try to apply an even force as I'm screwing it down. You basically should be able to get it on with no asymmetrical gaps between the grenade body and the end cap. You don't have to do too many turns to get it secured in, but you want to make sure that it's not going anywhere. Once you've done that, the last thing to do is to make sure that the plug is in the hole. And if you don't do this, when you pull the pin on the grenade, everything will detonate instantly, meaning that the BBs will be expelled right away. There won't be any delay whatsoever. So make sure that that plug is in before you're ready to deploy. Once you're ready to deploy, it's a pretty straightforward affair. You simply pull the ring, pull the pin. You're going to feel the tension on the pin at this point. And like I mentioned earlier, when it's degassed, the pin will fall right out. But when it's gassed up, there's actually quite a bit of tension on this pin. So you're going to need to use some force, pull it right out, and then wait for the deployment. And you'll notice too, I was holding this grenade. Some of the BBs actually hit my hand. I'm literally sitting, right here. I'm within less than 3 feet of the grenade. I'm not going to say that you shouldn't use eye protection because you absolutely always want to use eye protection when you're playing any airsoft game or using any airsoft product. That said, as far as damage to the skin, not the eyes, damage to the skin, I can't see it being any kind of a problem. I literally held this in my hand, covering the vent ports as the gas is expelled, pushing the BBs out. And all that happens is that the gas basically goes around the BBs stay in place, maybe a few come out. It really isn't bad. So I really like that, especially when you compare it to, pyrotechnic options on the market. Someone could literally dive on this grenade or pick it up before it, detonates, try to throw it back or lay on it, whatever, and not suffer, from what I can tell, any kind of actual harm. Again, safety's paramount. I'm not making any warranty. I'm sure someone somehow out there would be able to hurt themselves with this grenade, but as far as I can tell, it's quite safe. So please use common sense. Now, something you're going to need to do to keep your tornado working properly is to maintain it every few detonations. Airsoft Innovations recommends that you apply their special grenade oil to the shuttle chamber every 2 deployments. They recommend about 2 drops, and I'll be honest with you, I actually think that they've got it down to a pretty good science. I have found that the grenade does not function properly if you do not lubricate it about every 2 deployments. So make sure to do it. And you don't need to overdo it either. Just a few drops right around here, then you're going to want to cycle the shuttle back and forth, up and down basically, to make sure that the oil basically wears in there. You're going to be using, some kind of tool to push the shuttle downwards, make sure that your plug is out, and just work it in there. One thing I found too is that you want to actually apply the oil when the shuttle is all the way down, as far down as it can be, because there's actually a slight space there. So when you apply the oil, then you're able to actually work it in to the O-rings and get it really into the system. So that's just my my personal anecdote there. Another thing to do is to be aware that there is a blow-off valve right next to the fill valve. You'll be able to see it here. Now, Airsoft Innovations tells us in the documentation that if the gas within expands and exceeds the operating pressures, basically, that this little blow-off valve will allow some of that gas to escape. If that was to happen, you're going to need to reset it. To do that, you need to take a small pliers, pull up on the valve, and Airsoft Innovations says you're supposed to pull up not more than 1 millimeter, and then allow it to reset, and it is spring-loaded. And then you want to apply some gentle pressure to that valve to make sure that it seats back down. I have not had to do that, actually. I've not had to use it. I've been using this grenade in temperatures right around 75 degrees. So it hasn't been an issue for me, but now you know how it works and what to do with it should the need arise. Another thing, too, that I have found is that you want to make sure that the ports, the gas ports, are free from any obstruction. Now you see there is a piece of plastic on this side. From what I can tell, that isn't affecting the grenade's performance. I don't know if that's something that Airsoft Innovations has built into the grenade or if it's just this particular model, because the one side has no obstruction, the other side you can see a piece of plastic. Whatever the case, the grenade still functions quite well, so just make sure there isn't like a piece of, I don't know, cardboard or something that's totally blocking the hole. If there is, that could cause a problem. In conclusion, I really like this device. If it was my own money, I would buy it. Pretty much at whatever price within reason. There's a sale that will probably be ending by the time this video gets to market, though they may extend it. You may be able to find this device for less than the $99.99 MSRP. Even if you had to pay $100 for it, I think it would be worth it because it really is slick. As far as reliability goes, I still maintain that it is probably 99% reliable. There were a few times when I've had some issues with it that I think were probably the fault of the design, but most of the problems that I encountered were the result of my own error. I will say that even though it's reliable, you're going to want to study all of the manuals pretty closely because you need to get things done in order. So there's a bit of a learning curve in terms of being able to do it from memory. Once you surmount that curve, though, it's really a great piece of hardware. My biggest complaint is probably with the number of parts that can be lost. I don't really see much of a workaround, for Airsoft Innovations, so it's really not the worst fault. I am testing 3 of their accessory kits, so for me it might be a little bit worse than if you're just using it in its standard mode. In its standard mode, things you're going to want to keep close attention to is that little dowel, which you don't see here because I don't have it because I lost it. It's sort of oval-like. You'll know it. You'll see it in the hardware. You can actually attach it to the ring itself. I'd wholeheartedly suggest that you do that. The end cap, actually, that's probably, I think, where this design is its weakest because you're dealing with plastic against metal. I actually had to use the maintenance kit replacement end cap because apparently I stripped the first one. I thought I was doing it correctly. I was even being careful, but you really do have to be very precise. So I think that if I had to kind of point a finger at its worst feature, it would be that this is plastic. Assuming you use care, of course, you can use it problem-free, and if you need to, you can buy the maintenance kit and get the replacement. Other than that, my personal tip would be to attach a piece of fishing line with a little bit of like surveyor ribbon almost. So that sort of orange tape you see, you can probably find it at a hardware store. You can choose to do that, you can choose not to do that, whatever, but if you do that, at least when you throw it, you'll kind of see a nice arc of where the grenade falls, and it can also help with the visibility when you're trying to recover it. Overall, I think it's worth the money wholeheartedly. I think if you haven't had a chance to play with one of these, you should go out, try to get your hands on one because you can have a lot of fun, and if you like Airsoft, then you probably like to have fun. This has been an Airsoft Reports presentation. Thanks for watching.